I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time.
In the 1980s, the United States was grappling with a new substance that was wreaking havoc on its streets, crack cocaine. But there was more to the story than what meets the eye.
On the streets of New York, it's called crack.
It's an addicting thing that probably ever existed in the world.
The war on drugs took known as crack.
What will you do when someone offers you drugs?
It's no surprise that North America is experiencing an opioid epidemic. Since 2010, the amount of deaths to opioid overdoses has absolutely skyrocketed. According to Government Canada and the CDC, 20 Canadians and 44 Americans die every single day from overdoses. The origin of these drug addictions has its roots in systemic racism. As of 2021, 2.7% of all black residents in the state of Wisconsin are incarcerated, compared to the 0.23% of white residents. There are on average 11.9 black prisoners per white prisoner. So how was this all started? On June 17, 1971, former President Nixon declared that drug abuse was public enemy number one.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse.
However, the connection between systemic racism and drug control originated long before. The origins of drug control are traced back to the early 20th century, when the International Opium Convention was signed in 1912, targeting Chinese immigrants. This was then followed by the League of Nations' efforts to control the global drug trade. Then Nixon declared the start of the war on drugs in response to increasing drug abuse and addiction rates. The war on drugs was declared over 50 years ago, and today the US is experiencing a significantly more damaging drug epidemic, proving that no one really won the war.
On this date 40 years ago, President Richard Nixon announced the start of the war on drugs. Today, after more than $1 trillion and hundreds of thousands of deaths, the war goes on, and no one is declaring victory.
But it's clear who the losers of the war are: Black and Latino Americans. The implementation of mandatory minimums in prison sentencing is to blame for a drastic increase in incarceration numbers. Reagan employed messaging that appealed to the fears and concerns of white Americans. His focus on law and order, states' rights, and limited government resonated with the segments of the white population who held discriminatory views. By framing issues in a way that downplayed his part in systemic racism, Reagan was able to maintain a broad base of support from Republican voters.
With us working together as a nation united, now we need your support again. Drugs are menacing our society. They're threatening our values and undercutting our institutions. They're killing our children.
Decades later, those harsh penalties have led to millions of people, primarily those of color, locked up and their livelihoods stripped away from them. The black incarceration rate in America exploded from about 600 per 100,000 people in 1970 to 1,808 in 2000. In the same time span, the rate for Latino population grew from 208 per 100,000 people to 615, while the white incarceration rate grew from 103 per 100,000 people to 242. The anti-drug policies were widely accepted at the time, mostly because the use of crack cocaine was often associated with a spike in homicides and other violent crimes. These harsh implementations by law enforcement came without addiction prevention resources, leading those struggling with addiction to be thrown into prison.
Has it. Hart Wade goes in there. He has it rejected by the place to be. It's about that time.
Yeah, what you know about going out, head west, Lex, TVs, all up in the headrest. Try and live it up, ride through a boogie truck, T-Saw, split it up, stick a kid, nigga what? Jig with a cut, shit, put the board up, hold right, get your nuts up, can't get it up. I'm a great man, get this man room, I done hit everything from Cancun to Cancun. Why you stand on the wall, hand on your ball?
Len Bias was a remarkable basketball player. Widely considered one of the greatest college basketball players of his time, Bias possessed exceptional skills, athleticism, and immense potential. Standing at 6 feet, 8 inches tall, he showcased a unique blend of strength, agility, and speed that allowed him to dominate on both ends of the court. Playing for the University of Maryland, Bias led his team to consecutive ACC regular season titles, leaving a mark on the college basketball scene. His performances, including multiple scoring records and All-American honors, earned him widespread recognition.
Now, from Television 9, Washington's news station, this is Eyewitness News at noon.
Good afternoon, I'm Bob Dalton.
I'm Andrea Rowan. A local success story took a tragic turn this morning. Len Bias, the Maryland University basketball star on his way to becoming a world champion Boston Celtic, died of an apparent heart attack today at Leland Memorial Hospital in Prince George's County.
A large part of the hysteria that was created by the media around drug use was when on June 17, 1986, 15 years to the day after Nixon declared the drug war, NBA draftee Len Bias died of a cocaine-induced heart attack on the University of Maryland campus. Within weeks of his death, the Anti-Abuse Act of 1986 was drafted. The law, passed and signed by Reagan, implemented mandatory federal sentences of 20 years to life in prison for violating drug laws. This also made possession and sale of crack rock significantly harsher than that of powder cocaine. The truth is, the legal consequences of drugs should never be more damaging than the drug itself.